You know, one of the cool things about being in a bootstrap environment is most places you go to a meetup, people walk in going, what's to eat? And if they see a busy room, they go, damn, I'm not going to get to eat anything. Here, I don't know about you, but I walk in and I see a big, busy room and I go, how much money is Sam making? Sam, how much money are you making from this? 10 bucks a pop?
Well, they were $25, but we gave like half of them away, so.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Suckers. I think everybody got like at least a 15.
I don't get paid, but I do get free tickets to give away to all my friends, so it pays to be friends with me. He learned that from you. He worked with you guys. You guys are bootstrapped?
That's right.
Right, so he learned how do you hustle, how do you bring people in, how do you make the sale. And that's our goal here today, right? I talked to a few of you and I said, what are you looking to get out of this? And you said, show me how to get customers. How do I get users in the door? I don't care about the next million. I care about the first 1,000, right, Siva? Yep. You made me write that down. I wrote that down. We're going to get into that. And that's the whole idea. Sam actually gave me a bunch of notes to start off with, and he said at the top, Andrew, here's my goal for this event. I love that you think that way. I have this mission in mind. When you walk into a room like this with a mission in mind, you're so much more likely to get it. Do you guys have a mission? Do you have a mission?
I do.
Yeah, do you want to say it publicly?
Yeah, like you actually just told everybody in the room, you know, to learn how to get my first 1,000 customers.
The first proper 1,000 too, because you got to 5,000 and you realized that's not the right way to grow.
Yep.
Right, so it's the first 1,000. Take a moment now, just really think about what is your goal here, because I want to work for you. You can see I'm high energy. And the reason I'm high energy is I feel like I got in here, I got paid with free tickets, I'm going to earn my free tickets by working for you guys, but you have to know what are we working towards. So just be real clear about that. Joe, what are you here for? What are you working for? Like mentally, when you're here, what are you looking for?
I'm looking to build a platform,
okay,
and then, but not give away half the company
okay,
in order to raise the funds for it.
So if you were to get one thing here today, what would that be?
I'd like to figure out how to kind of continue to build a business to finance itself.
Okay.
So I can be greedy with my shares.
Gotcha. So you don't have to give away shares, but still get customers and keep growing the business. Are you guys all bootstrapped except for you raise money, but Nikhil, you're bootstrapped?
Yeah, yep.
Neville, bootstrap, right?
Totally, yeah.
How about one other person? What are you here for? I remember once I walked into an event when I was doing events, and I said, I just want to get a sponsor. I see this event has sponsor. Every event has sponsorships. I'm going to get one sponsor. I walked in, and somehow I ended up with Sun Microsystems, $3,000. It's like more $3,000 to sponsor my party. Everyone else was paying like 10 bucks to get in, 25 bucks. They gave me $3,000 for that one party. Yes?
So yeah, I'm looking for a co-founder, someone who's interested in helping me create an amazing crowdsourced film production company.
Okay.
It's called crowdsource.com, and the current version is kind of like 99 designs for videos. You want a couple of stuff, got some also small investments.
Are you thinking, Neville, about different ways to rewrite that, like in a more persuasive way?
No, I'm thinking it's kind of ballsy to go up there and just start recruiting right away.
No, I like that you did it. I said, what's your goal?
It's called crowdsource.com.
All right. All right, I'm going to be working for you too. That'll happen over beer. So why don't we just start out with an understanding of where you guys get your customers. Nikhil, I see you've got this in front of you. What is that?
That is a mushroom kit. So that's you can pop up in the front panel in about 10 days, get a pound of mushrooms right out of the front of the box.
Okay, and I could just pull them off and eat it?
Literally harvest them right there.
Can I pull it off and eat it right now?
You could. You want to try one?
Yeah. Well, not with your fingers. Is that weird? All right, thank you. So, how do you get...
by the way.
Sorry?
They're oyster mushrooms.
Oyster. Okay.
They're kind of like shiitake, meaty in flavor.
Oh, that's really good.
It's as fresh as it gets.
So when you have something like that that's so different, how did you get your first, let's not talk about customer, your first user? Do you remember when you didn't even have the box?
The first user for the mushroom
First person
kit,
to try them out.
The first person before customer was farmers markets. First user was friends.
Okay.
Friends and family. We kind of make sure, hey, is this crazy? It's like, if we can't convince our most core supporters to like this, we know we're going on the wrong path. So I was like, all right, can we get the people that support us the most to like this thing? So let's go to the next phase, which is getting a wider audience for us as farmers markets.
Okay. And I should introduce you properly. Nikhil Arora, he is the co-founder of Back to Roots. They make this box where you can, grow mushrooms at home that you can eat. And you also have a fish tank that, oh, he's got it right there.
We just launched the Aqua Farm. It's a little self-cleaning fish tank that grows food. So you can put a little beta fish in there and grow fresh herbs right on top of it. So
all right. Chris, apartment list, excuse me, apartment list. You guys now raise money. You're bringing in how many millions of dollars?
About 20 million in revenue annually.
20 million. But you started out bootstrapping, and for a long time, how long did you go, how much sales did you get before you decided to go out for funding?
So we just raised funding in late November.
Okay.
So we were at the kind of $20 million annual
20
number.
million. All right, that doesn't satisfy our test, right? We want to know the early ones, the early days. So do you remember when people wouldn't take your call? When today anyone will take your call, but do you remember the time when you were trying and no one would take your call and no one would want to work with you guys?
I remember it quite well. So for the first kind of 6 to 12 months, we needed supply on the website and we needed revenue. So we would call landlords, we would call big property management companies, we would call these big marketing companies like apartments.com and forrent.com. They actually had these affiliate marketing programs, and they still wouldn't return our calls. And we would call over and over and over. And we didn't know what we were doing wrong. You know, I have an MBA, I have a fancy degree. I was really polite over the phone. Sometimes I would use my LinkedIn connections to get a warm intro, but still nothing. The sales pitch wasn't working. So we were kind of commiserating over beers with a friend of ours that his occupation is he sells rat poison for a living. And we're like, man, how do you sell so much rat poison? And he was like, well, you know, it's really all about relationships. I'm like, oh, yeah, I feel like my relationship isn't that good with this person that I'm cold calling. And he's like, how much money could you make on a deal like this? And we were talking about some of these big wholesale distributor deals, like doing a deal with apartments.com. I was like, man, I mean, I feel like it could be like a $500,000, $1 million annual deal if we do it right. And he's like, and you won't get off your ass, get on an airplane and meet that person in person? And I was like, well, when you put it that way, maybe I should meet that person in person. So there was a lot of calls like, hey guys, I'm just happen to be in Norfolk, Virginia next Tuesday, and love to buy you a cup of coffee if you're around. And as soon as they said yes, which they didn't always say yes to that, we would book our flights. So, you know, it got to the point, it's just like, if I don't hear back from you, I'll show up at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and then sometimes you'd hear back, they're like, no, do not come, but at least they actually respond.
Chris Herndon is the co-founder of Apartment List. One of the nice things, you guys look for apartments over here, right? So you know how tough it is? Well, the cool thing about Apartment List is it aggregates hundreds of different websites, or content from hundreds of different websites. It puts all those apartment listings beautifully on a map. It makes it easy to search. And largely bootstrapped until recently. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Neville.
Yo.
So you're all about sales and copy. Do you remember one of your first sales?
So for copywriting stuff, I became known as a copywriter, and I was just writing my own stuff at a rave company a long time ago. And I'd never been to a rave in my entire life. And so people kept telling me, like, monetize your email list, all that kind of stuff. And I would send out emails, and no one would buy anything. Lots of clicks, lots of activity, no one would buy anything. So then I started studying copywriting pretty obsessively and like actually copying out ads and everything. And I rewrote in completely opposite format. And it just totally succeeded from there, right? And so I was just like, oh, cool, I'll just do this on my own. Like I had no intention of becoming a copywriter. And then a lot of people would read those emails and be like, dude, that's some good writing. It's really, like, I don't even give a shit about this rave stuff, but I'm reading it for some reason and want to buy it. I don't understand. And then Noah Kagan, you might know him, he started Appsumo. He kind of started off my couch in Austin. And he was kind of like, I guess, my first customer almost. And he was sending out all these emails to his giant email list. And I was like, dude, you should totally do it in this long format and everything. He's like, no, it curses too much. It does this. And we did a tiny little deal. And it totally exploded. So he was like, yeah, do that again. Do that again. So from there, I started writing just because it was fun, because all these deals were super cool. I wanted them myself.
Well, break that down for me, because I want to understand what you did. What did you do with that email that worked so well?
Okay, so normally Noah would take something like grasshopper.com. You know, it's like a phone system, and it forwards it to your cell phone and does other things like that. Makes a small company look like a big company. So he would say, grasshopper.com, $100 voucher for $25. And he would send that. And so everyone who knew Grasshopper was like, oh, that's cool. And then there's a subset of people who actually wanted Grasshopper right then. So like, that's cool. I said, okay, I bet most of these people don't know how they can use Grasshopper. I happen to already use it. So I told all these people, like, if you have a tiny little company, you can make a whole phone system instantly that seems like your company's big. And also, I used to use, for the customer support number of my business, it was my cell phone number. And so people would call me at like 3 in the morning. I'd be like, House of Rave. And, like, and that's like not the most professional or helpful thing. So it had all these features. And so I listed out like who can use this, why they can use it. A designer can use it and be like, oh, hello, this is like Nikhil's agency or whatever, even though it's like a dude at home.
Okay.
So I explained all those reasons and then explained like exactly how to buy, how to set it up. So it was actually like good content for people that like, even if they didn't want it, they still learned a hell of a lot about grasshopper.com. And that's a lot better than being like, Grasshopper, $25.
Neville Medhora, he is a copywriter. His website is Copywriting Course, right?
Yeah,
with all Ks.
Yeah, with Ks. Yeah.
A copywriting course. We're going to find out more about that. But Nikhil, we were talking about you going to your friends. Why start with your friends? Why not just put up a website and see if people are going to buy it off of a landing page?
Yeah, I think for us, first was different with like a physical product, something we could.
Sorry, I don't know if it's my mic or what, but I'm trying to be careful with it. So yeah, so tell me about the physical product.
I think it was something very tangible. We could show people, talk to them about it, and there was some kind of interaction there. But it's funny because before the mushroom kit, our first customer ever was Whole Foods, Berkeley Whole Foods, and that one was actually going to a retailer first and just trying to see, is there any demand out there? Because our friends thought we were crazy at that point. We kind of failed the friends test. We used to sell fresh mushrooms on coffee grounds. Failed that friends test. Like, you guys are crazy, giving up. We were going to invest in banking and consulting, and last semester in college and decided to go mushrooms instead. What the hell are you guys doing? So like we had to validate this some other way. We literally had grown a paint bucket of mushrooms in Alex's fraternity kitchen closet. And we walked it over to a handful of different grocery stores, Berkeley Bowl, Safeway, Johnico's, the Berkeley Whole Foods. And that was the first store we actually walked into. And they walked in the first guy who was just like packing the vegetables in the produce section. And today we're trying to go mushrooms on coffee grounds. Like, what do you think? And that's kind of the very first steps. I think at that point, having a retailer validate us was huge.
So you're just walking into Whole Foods and talking to the first guy you see and trying to sell him?
Sell him, yeah. That's a huge lesson we've learned from retail too. I think there's always this pressure, misconception, like, I got to get to the buyer first, the regional buyer, the national buyer.
I would think that.
You start from the store level up, it gives you so much more just cred, because our goal is, like, can we get him to forward our stuff to the regional buyer?
So what do you say to the guy who's busy answering questions while he's trying to put stuff on the shelves that gets him to forward you on to the next guy?
I think he'd give respect even just to that retailer, Whole Foods itself. I think it was a retailer that I think instilled their values at every level of their company, because we walked into so many other retailers who no one gave a crap about us when we walked in there.
Okay.
And I think it was connecting with them on like a passion level. Like, they're here for a reason, working at that store, and I think we connected with them on that level, like trying to promote healthy food.
Okay.
This is the way to do it. So I think it's tapping into that why, not the what.
All right. And then when you get up to that top guy, the guy who's going to make the decision, does he immediately say yes?
He had Randy, which is to our day one of our closest mentors. We ended up talking to him for like 45 minutes on the phone, and again, I think that the biggest lesson we learned is like focusing not on the what, because at that point we had nothing. It was just a bucket of mushrooms.
Literally a bucket. It didn't even look like that.
It was a ace powder paint bucket of mushrooms with a couple of things finding out that we had no idea if they even tasted good. But it was focusing on the why, like why are we doing this? Why are we passionate? Like, we're trying to change the way people grow food and interact with their food. And I think he really connected with that why, and he ended up saying, this is the coolest thing I've seen in produce. If you guys figure this out, I'll blow you up in Whole Foods. This was sort of last semester in college, and we got that validation from him. Still he had no idea, we had no idea what we were doing. Like, he thought we had this whole farm already ready to go, we had no clue what we were doing, but he bought into the why, and we figured out the what later.
So I mentioned that Sam gave me a list of goals for this session. And what he said was, by the end of the event, Andrew, I want every attendee to know how to quickly validate their ideas. I want to know how they could earn their first sale and understand how each speaker made their first $150,000. That's a lot of goals from Sam, but I think we can get there. So validate your ideas. Your friends didn't validate the idea. You went to the customer. Was it that Whole Foods said yes? Is that the validation? Is that what we're taking away from this?
That was one of the validations. I think that, and before that we were able to get Shea Panisse and Berkeley Alice Waters to try the mushrooms. So we had kind of this combination of our customer base in terms of actual end customer, someone who would actually eat the mushrooms, say, these taste good, and our retailer saying, this is really cool and innovative. I think that combination led us to, there's something here we got to keep on running with.
Okay, so if Joe were to take something away from what we just said right now, it's to go talk to a customer and say, or talk to a user and say, would you try it? And if they say yes, then go to another one and say, will you pay me for it?
Exactly, yeah. And so Shea Panisse was would you like this?
Okay.
Whole Foods is, will you give us money for this?
Okay.
Yeah.
What about if it's in a bucket? What if I don't know what's going on here, but I'll do my best with it. What about if you're still at the bucket stage? Whole Foods doesn't want to sell buckets. Whole Foods or your customers, right, Joe? They want a finished product. They don't want a half-assed thing. So what do you do there? How do you sell something that's not fully there?
I think that's actually, I do disagree. I think people, they care less about that finished product at the early stage, and you think if you can get them on board, again, it sounds like a repetition, but with the why. Like you sell them on the purpose at that stage, on your mission, on your vision, and be totally transparent. Like, this product is not where I think it's going to be, but I would love your support to get me there. And you find your core customer base, I think, selling your passion, your vision, not necessarily your product.
Okay.
Which lets you sell a paint bucket of mushrooms.
And so they bought the bucket, and then at what point do you need to actually deliver the box?
Our first mushroom sale took us about 6 months of just figuring out how to take that one bucket and turn it into commercial scale. And I think along the way, we were just keeping them in the loop. Like, it wasn't like cold silence, just like, hey, updating them every week. Like, we grew a pound, we grew 2 pounds. We're not there yet, but like keeping them in the loop.
And when it's there, you guys are ready to buy, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
Chris, so when you guys are selling, what were you selling that time when you said, I'm in town with coffee?
So I said we can find you renters for your landlord clients at a much lower cost than you can yourself.
To websites that already had landlords that were trying to find tenants.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we leveraged the sales forces of these distributors, like an apartments.com or forrent.com. Some of those have 300-400 salespeople out pounding the street, signing up clients. So we said, you guys need to supply renters to your clients, and you're doing a good job of keeping some of them happy, but some of them aren't happy. And we can give you more renters at a lower cost than you can yourself.
So you give us all your listings, and we'll get you renters. So you go out, and you get someone to finally take your call, and terrific, they say yes, and you're celebrating, but now you have to get customers, right? You have to get users to come in and buy and get rent. So how do you do that?
So at first, we bought a few users at a loss.
Okay.
So we'd use Google AdWords is easy to just kind of get up and running, and we read a couple books on how to purchase AdWords in an effective way. And search engine marketing is more of an analytical exercise than it is a fluffy marketing exercise. So we got pretty good at that. So we got to the point where our loss wasn't so big, and then once we piled on more customers, more suppliers. We got really good at what we were doing, and then we started making a lot of money on every user that we acquired.
It's a hell of a book. What's the book?
I think it was AdWords for Dummies. And we were dummies.
You told me when we started that unlike most people who buy ads, you had a different goal. You wanted to make money every time you paid for an ad.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. How do you do that?
You need a good business model.
Okay.
So you need, in our case, we needed supply, and we needed contractual agreements with the providers of the supply to pay us every time we connected a renter with a landlord.
Okay.
And so part of it was deeply integrating with these clients. So a lot of people, we weren't the first ones to think of kayak.com for apartment search. There was a company called HotPads doing it at the time. There's a company called Oodle. And the way they were doing is they were clicking off to the user, or to the supplier's website, because that's what the supplier asked them to do.
Okay.
And what we found is users didn't like that very much. They were like, oh, what's this website? Rentwiki.com. I don't know what this is. And so there's a high degree of attrition. So we found that users were kind of speaking with their mice.
Wait, RentWiki was your site, or no? It was a site that you.
Yeah, so they would come to our site. It was actually mycheapapartments.com at the time.
Okay, that's what Apartment List was called at the time.
Right. It was just our prototype website that we had spent $7 on GoDaddy for. So they'd come to My Cheap Apartments, and it was actually a clean UI, and then they would click, and it would take them off to apartments.com or rentwiki.com, and then the UI was completely different, and it wasn't clean, and users would typically abandon at that point.
Okay.
So we found that was a leaky part of the funnel, so to speak. So what we did is we said, hey guys, over coffee or maybe the steak dinner the next time,
right.
We said, how about we do a deep integration where the user doesn't have to leave our site, send us a robust data feed so we have all the information, and allow us to host phone numbers and contact forms and things like that. So that reduced our attrition rate quite a bit, which basically improved our conversion rate, which improved our unit economics.
Okay.
There was a day in March 2010 We went from making 17 cents a visitor to 78 cents a visitor. And we're like, whoa, because we'd look at the numbers the next morning. We're like, that can't be right. And we found out that was right. And we were buying our users for 17 cents a visitor.
17 cents is what you were paying, and 78 cents is what you were earning.
But the previous day we were making 17 cents. And then once we got these fully integrated partnerships in place,
okay,
pressed go, we were making 78 cents.
Wow.
So it went to where it was kind of a positive unit economics business overnight.
Okay.
And that kind of opened up the floodgates for us to acquire more and more users.
Is there anyone else here with a marketplace business? I want to make sure to ask questions that are really appropriate to you. If I call on you later, are you going to make me regret it? No. All right, we'll come back. Think about your question, because I want to make sure that we address the needs of marketplaces, because it's a completely different model than make it yourself and then go and sell it. Wait till you guys hear how much he's making with this. Are you willing to talk about it? Not now. Let's leave him hanging for a bit. You are. You're willing to say what your revenues are?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get Whole Foods. Now you need to get someone to go into the store and buy it, right? Otherwise Whole Foods isn't into it. How do you get someone in the store to buy it?
That's still a big challenge.
Okay.
I think that's for us. I mean, we have both products are really. It's an interesting thing, because I think both products are on the spectrum of like innovation to awareness, or on the high end of innovation. Like, no, they haven't been in the marketplace before.
Okay.
Grow at Home Mushroom Kit and Aqua Farm, but that also goes. So the pluses are you can get a lot more. There's no competition in store. The flip side, no one knows what the hell it is. So
Okay.
it's this constant like battle. And I think in retail, it's all about merchandising. It's a fight for every square foot of how much point of sales can you get. And for us, it's been a learning in just packaging, making sure packaging communicates what it does is number one. Because if you get no point of sales, you still need it to work, and then B, point of sale. So that's been all relationship building with the stores and learning the whole retail space.
So how do you do that? If he can, because Apartment List is all online, he can play with the design and see the results instantly. You can't change the box today, measure conversions, and then come back tomorrow and adjust again. So how do you know that you've got the right one?
Yeah,
the right design?
Early, I think with this product, we made a lot of mistakes. Our first one was Alex, the co-founder, and I on PowerPoint. It's funny, our company, started off as Back to the Roots, but our first name is Better Ventures, BTTR Ventures.
Okay.
Stood for Back to the Roots. We thought it was brilliant, like better mushrooms, better this, and the first packaging and like better mushrooms, big old things written on it. And within like a week, we had customers like, why are you selling me bitter mushrooms? What are butter mushrooms? We're like, oh crap. We just it's a huge box and it's ruined. And I slowly got better at like investing in design, investing in customer feedback and testing early on. And with the Aqua Farm now, we went to all
So
our
how do you do
buyers.
it? You're saying you put it out there and you wait for complaints, and then you fix it.
And we learned from there. With the Aqua Farm, we just launched in June. That one, we got a lot of our top customers, like focus groups, went to our buyers mainly as well to make sure, hey, if we put this out there, you happy with this? So Whole Foods, Nordstrom,
Well, then let's go
Petco.
back to the beginning, because we want to focus on the first. I've got the goal here, which is the early users. You don't have enough money to do tests, groups, and all that. So do you just have to take a flyer, make a few, put them in the store, and that's it?
Yeah, our first box was actually a sleeve, so it was a little bit easier to do.
Okay.
So we had a simple box, and then we printed out this little 20-cent sleeve on it that had different designs on it. And looking back now, some like ridiculously like disgusting designs, but it gave us we learned something every time. So we found a way to be able to iterate faster on that packaging, and not have to invest in it. Like right now, it's a printed box, so minimum quantity is like 25,000. So
you figured out if we could do a sleeve, then we could do rapid iteration in real life, which is
500, 1,000, and learn really quickly. And you take it to stores. We demoed every weekend, so we asked customers, okay, what do you think this thing does, and see how close they were or not to getting it. So.
Is your brother here?
Is he here right now? He should be coming. So.
He'll come. All right, then we'll get him to ask a question. In that case, does anyone here have a physical product that you're selling online? I want to make sure that the questions are really directly helpful for you, or something that you're selling through a retailer, through someone other than yourself? You are? Who are you pointing to? Are you, physical product. Would you think of a question? I want to make this really useful for you. Don't try to please everyone here. Be really selfish. People ask me how am I a good interviewer on Mixergy. It's because I get really selfish. I say, what do I need to know? And if I ask that really, then other people need to know the exact same thing. If I try to make it appeal to everyone, it's not going to work. All right, so you'll ask a question. Just think of what do we do to make it useful for you. Neville, I see you're writing a lot of notes here.
I take a lot of I was looking. No one's taking any notes. Maybe this guy, but I don't know. No one's taking
What are
notes?
some of the notes that you took? Help me be aware of what we should remember.
So with Appsumo, we've done a lot of validation courses and stuff. We've literally seen like thousands and thousands of people from like the spectrum of like people who are really rich who take our courses and stuff. And so we've seen all this consulting things. Like we've done a lot of them. And so there's like a couple different types of consulting. So I was thinking like if anyone has different types of businesses, there's consulting businesses like physical products. Then there's like apps. There's the wantrepreneurs of the crowd who have no idea what they want to do. Like we've helped all those people. And so I was kind of curious like what the spectrum of people is.
So you want to see, does anyone want to start a company and doesn't have an idea yet?
Who's in that like idea, looking for an idea phase?
Okay.
Okay.
Ryan?
What about like starting an app? Who started doing app stuff? Huh. Wow. Products, physical products? I guess they already have. How come more hands went up this time? Weird. Okay. Consulting, just like selling your time or services, knowledge, something like that. Digital products, like besides apps. Do you get a sense? Like I don't know. There's like only a few hands going up each time.
Yeah, I guess people are reluctant to express what they're doing in a group, right? Because there's no individual benefit. But there's a lot of individual attention. So what? So
I also had questions for you because
Okay.
I like your stuff.
Okay.
Can I interview you?
No.
Switch around.
I got the rules
At the
here.
end. Okay,
Yeah. What do you
keep going.
No, go ahead. What do you?
What do I want to know? So you have Mixergy.
Yes.
So you like totally took over. You started like, in my opinion, this kind of like interviewing famous business people thing. And you told me early on when you were doing it, I was like, how'd you get so good at interviewing? You said someone told you do one every single day.
Yes.
And you line up an interview with some like business person. Make notes and take questions and then put it out every single day.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How did you start? Because you were in like the greeting card business that you sold that first. How did you start and get your first like couple customers or subscribers?
So I had an invitation site. After the greeting card site did great, and I was like really happy. I went and ran with the Bulls in Pamplona. I hung out in LA.
Well, you make
partied
$30
in
million.
Vegas.
It's easy.
I didn't get to keep it all, but partied in Vegas well.
Yeah.
But then I thought, all right, I know everything. I'm going to go, and I was really arrogant. I don't know if anyone saw me at the time. No. There are a few people who saw me at the time who I'm so embarrassed to even see them in person now. Sandeep from Blissmo, for example. I was like really arrogant. I said, I know everything. And I started an invitation company, and it failed. And I realized, fuck, I don't know everything. And so that's when I just said, I'm going to start interviewing people and learn from them and see what I can do to never make that mistake again. Because it's so painful when you're supposed to, as an entrepreneur, pretend that you've got it all figured out, right? Because otherwise no one's going to use your stuff. And internally I knew, nothing's working. And then I had all this arrogance that I had to keep up, you know. Maybe arrogance too much, but... And so I was just projecting that out, and inside I was just dying every day because I hated it, and I was losing money, and it was painful. And then when I finally admitted it publicly in a video on Mixergy, you can see it. I failed. Is the name of the video.
So you already had Mixergy going? Like, how did that start? Like, when did you register this domain?
Mid 2006.
And you immediately put like a blog and stuff, like
I started
a WordPress blog.
I started doing invitations on there.
On Mixergy?
Yeah, it was
an invitation site first. Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then it failed. And then I started asking questions in interviews. And because I came from a place of desperation and no place to hide, you know, I really didn't know it, I started asking questions that were really useful. You know, Seth Godin came on, and I said, Seth, I understand this whole need for a tribe. No one's watching my stuff. What do I do? And Seth goes, I know. There was a time when Barack Obama was just driving out there. It was just him and a photographer, no crowds, no mobs, no protesters. But he was starting his tribe with just like the photographer. And then you build it from there. And I thought, all right, I could do that. I'll just start with 1 or 2 people, and then I'll build it from there. And just kept going.
So who was like your first interview?
The very first one was, so I was doing invitations, and then I said, you're really bringing this back to me.
Yeah, this is interesting. Is this not interesting, or like, okay, yeah.
The very first one was, so the invitation site, I was using it myself because you're supposed to be your first customer. And so I thought I'd really understand it if I use it myself. And I was organizing all these events, and people were coming, but I thought maybe if people understood how great if you did your own event and invited people with my invitation, how cool the people would be. Maybe if they understood that, then they'd use my invitations. So I invited one of the people who I met at the party. I said, come on, we'll do an interview, and then the world will know that you came. And then they'll all want to do their own events. and they didn't want to do the
And so you just started doing these interviews and it just started growing organically, or did you actively market?
So the interesting thing is that if today everyone has a following, and if you interview people, they will have a following that will come and find your stuff. So when I interviewed Seth Godin, I started to get thousands of people come to my site for Seth, and then some of them said, I identify with what you're saying, and they kept watching. And I interviewed someone else, and they would come on.
How did you get Seth to come to your interview?
How did what?
How did he come? Why did he come to your interview?
It's all kinds of reasons. I was actually showing, who was I showing earlier? The pipe drive that we do. We were talking, where I have like this really, I wish I could even project it and show you. We know that there are certain steps involved in getting someone to do an interview, and so it's like a sales process almost. And so we look out who's a good candidate. Oh, in the beginning it was, I read this book by a guy named Bill Cates about how to ask for referrals. Really good book. If you ever want referrals, get it. And he showed people how to get referrals. And so when I got an interview, in the interview itself, I would pull the Bill Cates process, and I would ask them for a referral. And then they would refer me, and I would get their friends to do interviews, and it would just go from there. What else do you have on your notes? No questions for me. What?
Oh man, I could ask you questions. One last thing, you embody this concept of like you give, ask, give, because your customers are like so loyal to you. It's awesome. I had a couple things like, so we're talking about how to get the first 1,000 customers. Was that it? I can give some examples. Like,
yeah, hit me. What do you have?
So there's this guy. He's really good at like digital videos, like in Adobe After Effects. So maybe this applies to your video stuff. And so he was asking us questions of like, oh, well, people want me to work for free and blah, 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 blah. So the concept is, for a lot of consultants, like, when should I do free work? And the easy answer is whenever it's someone with a big following. So like, he would, I don't know if he ever hit you up, but he hit up me, Noah, Appsumo, Ramit. He did all these free, awesome videos for us. And he never asked for any publicity. And then we all posted it, and from that, now he's commanding like 15 grand a video or something like that, almost instantly. This is his first business ever. I thought that was a very brilliant way to just kick off his business.
So create something for the influencers who are going to...
Just for the influencers, yeah. Your family friend that wants a free video for their shitty spa or something like that,
not
don't
the right guy. Okay. Yeah. All right, what else? Give me one more.
So apps. So apps. This is the typical like entrepreneur question. I was like, well, I want to make an app, and like, you know, coming from San Francisco, it's easy to get all wrapped up in that. People always want to validate an app, but they're like, well, you have to build an app first. How can you possibly validate it? Here's a really good example. There's an app called 520 or 90, and in Seattle, to get to Redmond and Seattle and vice versa, there's two bridges, 520 and 90. And sometimes one is crazy packed, and the other one's empty. And they both have tolls, and it both depends on how much time you spend on the toll. So if you take the wrong one, you might spend $15 going to work one day and $12 coming back. But if you took the other one on that day, it would have been $3 each way. So this adds up to a significant amount, and no one could ever really solve this problem. So they made an app called 520 or 90, but they had to hire a developer and all that kind of stuff because they couldn't do it. So before investing all this money, they made a site called 520 or 90, and it was a fake site that looked like it worked, okay? So it had a big like Flash or HTML5 iPhone, and you click, where are you going? Like Redmond to blah, blah, blah. And you click calculate, and it would show, oh, this one is 3:43 and will take 12 minutes. This one's 12:50 and will take 30 minutes. So clearly you go on 520. And they said, sign up for when the app comes out on the iPhone. And literally just started telling friends, and people were like, dude, this is the best idea ever. I like waste so much time and money, like sign me up. So they got like 5,000 signups, like pretty quickly. A local news team was like, is this real? And they were like, it's like coming out in a week, which it wasn't. They just kind of fudged it. And they got tons more signups.
So how did they make it work then on the website without the app?
It was just like fake. Like, you know, I'm not going to explain all the details, but it just like you click one button and it just said 3:43.
It just made something.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Really?
Yeah, it was totally like a ghetto thing. Their first version of it was like Photoshop, so you click it and it's just like a script that like shows the next image. Like it's totally fake.
Okay.
But they knew they could conceivably make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another example of that that's pretty inspiring. One of my buddies, he was lamenting over the fact that it's hard to buy gifts for men. You know, women have all these gift baskets and flowers and FTD and all that. But he's like, I want to get something manly for men. And So he came up with this idea. It's called man crates, and you were basically gonna have like this wooden crate with like beef jerky and like pretzels and like pocket knives and stuff like that. And the way you would open it is actually take a crowbar. But this is all in his head at this point. So he's like, how can I validate this idea? I don't really want to like come out of pocket and do all these things. So he went to the grocery store. Well, first he went to the hardware store and made himself a crate. Then he went to the grocery store and just bought like some potato chips and beef jerky and things like that. And he made pictures of them. And he made the pictures look pretty cool. Threw up a website like in WordPress. And actually, it might have been Squarespace at the time. So he actually made it so it had e-commerce on it. So people could actually pull out their credit card and pay. So he was charging these people. First, he started charging $40 for a man crate and just doing pay-per-click marketing into it. And people would pay $40. And he's like, how about I charge $50, $60, $70, $80, all the way up to $100. But every time somebody bought, he'd call back and he'd be like, I'm super sorry, I'm out of inventory. But then he'd talk to him for like 20 minutes, you know, why'd you decide to do this? And he like, gleaned a lot of insights from him, but he found out that there was no price elasticity until you hit $100. Like, people were just as likely to buy his fake man crate if it was $100 than if it was $40. And finally, like, he's like, if I can sell these for $100, I put them together for like, $19. I've got a business here. So I thought that was a really cool way to validate a physical product, which seemingly would be, a lot of out-of-pocket cost to get up and running.
Especially with those phone calls afterwards to get information.
Yeah.
Jason, where are you? You do customer development, right? I had you on Mixergy because you're just one of the best people at it. So when you get a customer on the phone, if we're new, what do we ask them to help us understand what the product is? What product we should make? Yeah.
I like to focus on the problem.
Okay.
So you get to know the person first, like, who are you? Like, I bet the guy doing the man crate wanted to know, like, what kind of man you buying this for? Or how are you related to him?
Okay.
But then, you kind of want to shift to the problem of, like, well, why are you buying this for him? Is it his birthday? Is it you want to surprise him because he's your friend, he's getting married? Like, what's the situation?
To understand who are they,
Okay.
and then what problem are they trying to solve with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I try to line up the solution to go with those first two.
What do you mean with the solution? So let's suppose this guy calls up someone and says, and that person says, I am buying this for my brother.
Yeah.
I'm a guy who's buying it for my brother for his birthday. Where do you take it from there?
Well, so that's where like Neville comes in with awesome copywriting, because all the stuff you're doing is going to inform the product you're making. So you're going to take all the stuff you learned from them and say, okay, I need to fit this into the product to be like, okay, this is coming from a brother.
Okay.
So, think about how that fits into the crate.
Okay.
And then going to Neville's copywriting, my landing page, maybe I should write some of the copy to speak to the fact that you're trying to find an awesome gift for your brother you love so much.
Gotcha.
Versus like if it turns out it's all women buying it for their boyfriend or something like that, maybe you word it a little bit differently.
Okay.
But it's like you're trying to bring alignment to all those things.
Oh, cool. All right, who is the person who had a product question? Yes.
So actually, my question was, what do you ask like your first 2 or 3 customers after you send them the product? And just say in the perfect case, they're like, it was great. Like, good job with your product. Like.
So the question is, what do you ask your first couple of customers after they buy? What do you ask?
Would you buy this again, or would you recommend it? 2 questions. If it's like a one-time kind of big gift, you ask them, would you recommend this product to your friends? If it's a repeat thing, would you buy it again? And that's the 2 most important questions you got to know. Everything else is kind of fluff after that.
Okay.
Would they buy it again? Would they recommend it to a friend? And how would you do it if they're buying it at the store and they're walking home with it? How do you get to find out afterwards would they buy it again?
I think it's been a challenge. I think for us, we sell about 1/3 of our sales online, and that customer is awesome because you have their email address, you can track them, you can follow up with them. The retail's a tougher way, and that's something that a lot of companies struggle with. How do you track your customer at the retail point of purchase? There's a couple companies out there that are trying to solve that now with certain little QR codes and ways to incentivize people to then scan something, track something, and have them come back to you in some way. With the mushroom kit, we did a kind of interesting thing where it was a 1-for-1 campaign. And for anyone who posted a photo after they bought it of their fully grown mushroom kit on their Facebook page, we donate a kit to an elementary school classroom of their choice. And it's a really fun way for us to, 1, reach schools, and then B, have that customer not only come back to us, but share their photo, their experience with a ton more people. So I think it's something we're always thinking through is like, how can we creatively add things to our packaging or
that gets them to give
come
you
back.
their contact information so you could check up on them.
Come back to us, yeah. And
Got
with
it.
the Aqua Farm, actually partnered up with a company in Oakland called Revolution Foods, which is a really awesome, like, healthy school lunch company. And for every Aqua Farm sold, that customer can log on to a special Facebook site through Revolution Foods and pick a school they want a healthy serving of lunch donated to.
Okay.
Through that, they give us their email address and they like our page. So it's like coming up with ways to incentivize people. And I think we learned that it's not necessarily like the gift, like the money that gets them to come back. It's like connecting with them on like that personal level, which is the most dramatic effect to get people to come back to you. So you hit into like their passion and their why.
Okay.
That gets a lot more people to come back than saying come back for $5 off.
Chris, you guys discovered why people weren't renting apartments on your site by talking to them, but how did you even know what their contact info is? I mean, a lot of us are running websites where if someone comes into the site, we don't know their contact information, and so we can't come back and say, why didn't you like my site? So how do you do it?
There's a few different ways. One is if you make it so that someone needs to provide their contact information to do something they want on your site, then you have your contact information. With apartment search, that's kind of obvious. If you reach out to a landlord, they need to be able to reach back out to you.
Okay.
So that was a way for today.
Landlords I get, but renters, how do you get their...
renters. Yeah, so
if they reach out to a landlord, then you get their contact info.
Yeah, so we don't require people to create an account for seemingly no reason, and I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. You need to provide value. But what we do is say if you reach out to this landlord, they need to be able to get back in touch with you, so provide your contact information.
Gotcha.
So that's, to this day, we get about 10% of the users that come to our website provide their contact information. We can reach back out to them. We can send them property alerts. We can ask them for user feedback and things like that.
And do you still ask them for user feedback?
Yeah, so one thing that I really recommend if you want to get really robust qualitative user feedback in your web business or an app is userfeedback.com. So what you do is you just go on there and say, I have this website, and you can do it for your competitors' websites or the incumbent websites, which is really cool too. You say, I have this website, can you go on there? And you can be as vague or specific as what you'd like them to do on this site. But what they do is it'll record them. They've got something downloaded on their machine that actually records where their mouse is going or where their fingers are tapping and records their voice. So they're told to narrate their experience. They can be like, oh, what do I do now? Or this is really cool. And what it tells you is, for us, we did it on our app very early days. And it was the most depressing thing I'd ever seen in my life. And we actually, we were a decent-sized company at the time. We were like 18 people, and we're like, kind of gather around, kids. We're gonna,
all watch us.
Yeah, we're gonna all watch, and we had to turn it off. It was so sad, but like we came away from it with like some really tangible things that were seriously effed up on the site, and we kind of stripped the site down to its basics, and we were able to rebuild from there. But I would really recommend that. People will say, well, like, it's not an objective sample, but when you're early days, you do not need statistical significance. You need like 2, 3, maybe 4 at the most perspectives, and it'll tell you what's great about your site or your app, and it'll tell you what sucks about it and needs improvement.
Yeah,
Sam, you were, sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick build off that too. One thing we did this holiday season on our site to kind of learn about optimizing it, it was super easy to install. We just live chat. It was incredible at what we learned, just having that. It starts getting annoying because it's on your phone too, and 24/7 you get addicted to it. Like, what are my customers asking for? But
they're just on your site.
On our
and
site,
you get your text message, it's
you
chat.
can set up different phones and stuff in our team. But it was just incredible. And within a week, we learned more than we learned in months of just like having people email or phone call, because that's
what software do you use for live chat?
LiveChatInc.com.
LiveChatInc.com.
Okay. Super easy to set up, but it was just a super fast way to learn what's going on.
Neville, you were going to say something too?
Oh, was I? Did I have that look on me?
You did, yeah. I was trying to anticipate.
Well, one of the things for feedback, I like those questions you said. You said, would you buy it again? And would you recommend this to a friend? I love those questions. They're awesome. The way I put it is I'm like, I literally say, dude, comma, tell me why, and please be brutal. I could take it. And whenever you set that precedent with them, it's such a small little hack. But dude, tell me why. Please be brutal. I can take it. They are actually like, they're like, okay, I'm gonna rip them. Like, because whenever you say, would you recommend this to a friend? But when you tell them to be brutal, they're really, really open, and you get what you asked for. Yeah, it's rough.
One other trick that we've decided just more recently, because we're launching a new initiative within the company, is we just took a certain set of properties, I think like 500 of them, and instead of we replaced the phone number to the leasing office or the landlord or the agent with our number. So it would just call in. We set up this makeshift center where we could just throw on a headset. And anybody, a product manager, an engineer, a designer could just walk in there. My co-founder and I, we took a bunch of calls. And basically what we would do is we would answer their questions about whatever property they were calling about. And we need to figure out from our website, could we answer the questions, or did we need to go to other websites? And we found out that we didn't have all the information we needed, but other websites did. And we found out what people really cared about. So they'd be calling into they'd be from Charlotte, and they'd be like, "Is that by XYZ hospital?" And I'd be on Google Maps, just kind of, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's right off the 90, and it's when it with the 112." And she goes "Oh yeah, the Woodall Rogers exit." And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly." And I'd be like, "So can I set you up with an appointment at 2 p.m.?" And sometimes they'd say yes, and sometimes they'd go back and forth. But people really care about commute time. I kind of figured that, but I didn't really know how much everybody cares about commute time, or what utilities are going to be included, or am I going to qualify? Everybody's really nervous that their credit's not high enough, or their income's not high enough, or they qualify. So that gave us a really more kind of human, in-depth understanding of what our users want. So I encourage everybody to just get on the phone and talk with people whenever you get the opportunity.
What else? Sam, what was the... Oh, you're saying there's a question back there. Who is it?
Right here.
Hit me.
Oh, I was going to ask you, have you ever gotten a very positive response for doing something really nice like that, benefiting a charity or something like that?
Did I ever get a positive response?
A not positive response.
Oh, did I ever get a not positive response when I tried to do something nice?
Exactly.
I never do anything nice. I never had an issue with that. Actually, no. All kidding aside, no, I haven't tied in with any program. Are you concerned that you might do something nice and people are going to rip you?
No, I just wanted to hear your opinion.
Okay. I didn't have that experience. You guys ever have that experience? Do people hate that you're helping classrooms?
No.
Please buy this. I'm going to give X to this cause or this charity.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of it is how you phrase it. I think it's not please buy this because, and coming from that angle of you're doing this out of charity. It's buy this because this is an amazing product you want, and just by the way, it helps. So you're kind of hitting them secondary with that message. That's one thing we've kind of done with a lot of our cause marketing. It's not primary, it's always secondary after. Buy the product because you like it, and secondary is oh, it'll do something good for the world too.
Do you think mentioning the second thing that it's going to a specific cause ever helps the sale, or do you think?
Yeah, I think I mean in this case the Facebook campaign, a teacher, a mom, a teacher, I think it hits them at a different point of their heart than just what the product is.
I think there are instances if you do something charitable and it's known that the only reason you did that is because you wanted to get really good press for it, I do think it could backfire. And we've gotten kind of dangerously close to that as a company, and we just decided let's not be disingenuous, and if we want to do something nice, great, and if we inadvertently get good press out of it, it's great, but let's not do it for the sole purpose of good marketing.
Actually, I did do that once. The greeting card company started as a result of doing email newsletters, and I had this brilliant idea. I said, charity. Every time someone signs up for my newsletter, I will donate 20 cents to charity. I'm going to be rich. And so I called up these charities and I said, can I give you money? And they said, no, hell no. I said, why not? They go, we don't know who you are. If you want us to give you our name, then we really need to vet you and we need to find out how much money we're getting and all that, because I guess they're used to people trying to use their names for growth. And I finally got a charity to say yes to it. And I ran ads and nobody signed up. I thought people would be so all you have to do is sign up for the newsletter and you get to give 10 cents. It just did not work. It didn't work. Yeah.
I'm curious about when you knew that the idea that you had was the idea that you wanted to stick with, and if you had any failures before whatever you were working on, and or if you just decided this is what you were going with. How long did it take you to get the validation to keep moving forward?
Great question. I'll repeat it just for JJ. What she's asking is, how long does it take you to know that this is the idea? Do you want to go first?
Sure. It took us a while.
How do you know whether it's the idea?
So for us, the dollars and cents spoke to us. Maybe that day when we went from 17 cents a user to 72 cents, and we're like, whoa, we're not as broke as we once were. For us, we were kind of like a business model, first product, second company. So the business model was validated, and that led us to the conclusion that we were onto the right track. And then there's been different validation points along the way that says we should move more in this direction. And now we're a insanely product-driven company. We have 25 engineers, and we have an Android app and an iPhone app and mobile web, and we have web, and we talk to our users all the time. So we're a very different company than we were back then, but that proof point led us to know. Because we were called Vertical Brands Labs at the time, and we were basically, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but in hindsight, we call it an internal incubator, but really we were just trying, throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what stuck. And
what's a bad idea you threw against the wall didn't stick?
we thought that if we worked with a bunch of different companies that had relationships with kitchen remodelers, that we could have a kitchen remodeling website that could give people more choices about kitchen remodelers. And what we realized is anybody can remodel your kitchen. And what you want is like a well-trusted person to remodel your kitchen. You don't want to put down your information and have 10 high-paying people that paid the most for those leads.
And so you walked away from that business.
Yeah, we walked away from it.
That brings up a good question. How did you know to walk away as opposed to call up those customers, find out what problems they had, and then figure out how to fix the product?
It was a combination of negative user feedback and the dollars and cents not penciling out. So I think we gave that the college try.
Even if you were to twist and turn and pivot and do everything, you just couldn't see a way to make money on it?
Right, and we were doing multiple experiments at the same time, so one of them was working well and one of them wasn't working well, so that made the decision easier.
Okay.
Yeah, you always have to walk the right line between focusing and trying enough things that because very rarely is your first idea the right one. So you need to cast a wide enough net that you can get lucky and reel in something.
Neville, I can see taking a lot of what we're learning from here, going home, creating a product, and then no one buying it. I feel sometimes like the product is almost secondary to the way that you express what that product is.
Yeah, so to answer your question, which was how do you know what product to make or if people like it, there's a pretty easy answer to that. It's when people keep asking for it over and over and they give you money. So that give you money part's super, super important. And can I give a quick few examples?
Yeah.
I had a friend that made an iPhone case. It was one of the first cases with a little wallet. You could hold 3 credit cards. And they started selling on Amazon. And I used to have this just co-working thing at my place. There's 20 people over there. 14 of them bought them off of him. He didn't come there selling them. He just had it on his case. And people were like, what is that? What is that? And they're like, oh, dude, you have them in green? He's like, let me go back to my apartment. And he kept selling them over and over. He's the #1 iPhone case for that category on Amazon. There's another dude that had a product called Sushi Quick. And I used to make sushi. It's the same method that they've used for 2,000 years with a little bamboo thing, and it's really gross to pick out the rice. So he had a guy in Pakistan for $60 render one in 3D. They had a high-end 3D printer printed out, and it cost $100 to make the model. And then he invited sushi chefs over to cook for his family. And they would cook the whole meal, and then he'd be like, hey, check this out. And the sushi chefs, and they're all straight up Asian guys would be like, oh my God, I've never seen this. This is so cool, so much easier to watch. And they would ask, can we buy this? I want to buy this. How can I buy this? I need to give this to my other sushi chefs. And so he was like, oh, damn, people are really trying to buy it. So that's kind of the key.
If they see it and they want to buy it.
Yeah, and then you're asking about the products. So I've made 10 products that I've put out through Appsumo myself and directed others. The ones that I thought would just take off, don't. The ones where people keep sending me emails every goddamn day. How do you write copy? How did you start that drop shipping business? Where did you find a drop shipper? I get the ones I have to put a canned email response in my Gmail because I get it so damn often. I just go through my canned filters and see oh, that question has been asked 100 times. That's the thing you got to make.
I promised you that I get back to the marketplace question. What's your marketplace question?